Hey everybody. Little agenda for today. We're going to talk through the results of the survey that we did last TPAC. We're going to jump into some ideas for tooling improvements and then follow it up with some working group adjustments. My hope for this is that it will be more of a conversation than a presentation. So if at any point you have something you want to say, come say it. That includes folks who may or may not be online and awake. This is a quote that we got from during our Blitzkrieg during TPAC. The process is what allows us to build things together and to do that in a way where we don't sue each other. I thought that was a good summary of the goals of the process. We visited every working group meeting during TPAC. We got a lot of feedback, and it was a lot of really good feedback. At the top of the list was the process is important. There's a reason that it's there. There's a reason that we have worked so hard to produce this document that we all try to live by. At the same time, horizontal review is terrible. It's a miserable experience for those in working groups. It's hard. There's some very deep confusion about what's a living document, what's a living specification, how does that work with the process? The capital P process kind of outlines how to do it, but the ability for people to actually go through that, those steps is hard. The formal objection steps are kind of opaque. A formal objection happens, and then at some point it's resolved, and in the middle there's a whole bunch of things going on behind the scenes, and a lot of that isn't clear to the membership, who are sometimes waiting for the results of the formal objections. And then rechartering, folks were like, why do we have to do this every 2 years? And then chartering, like, oh my goodness, why is this so painful, et cetera, et cetera. With all of this feedback, the AB has synthesized it and looked through it and come up with 2 general areas where we think we could not only focus, but achieve a lot of results that would address the majority of the feedback that we got. These 2 focus areas are improved tooling and adjustments to working groups. So I'd like to explore both of these topics with folks today and see what you all think about the direction we could go. Another quote, tools should be an enablement of the process. So as we discussed the process, big P process in the AB, we realized that there's a smaller P process, which is the things that we actually have to do. The big P process says you need to get horizontal review. It's very important that you do that. Wide review is very important. Do it. But exactly when it should happen and exactly how to talk to the accessibility, interest group or working groups about how to get an accessibility review of your document, at which stage would it be the most appropriate to talk to the tag? These are questions left as an exercise for the reader or the writer, as it were. We feel that improved tooling could really help. For horizontal review, if there were some way of streamlining this initialization of the review and tracking the reviews as they happen, it would be immensely helpful for not only for working group members, but for the reviewers. If the reviewers are able to see, hey, here's the reviews that we have, here's the queue. As reviews come in, working groups are required to make a disposition of comments. Like, here's all the comments that we got, and here's the evidence that we have responded to them, whether it was a change to the specification or whether it was we talked about this as a working group and we had a conversation with the commenter and we elected to make no change. They need to show that all of those things have happened. This is in order to adhere to the big P process. This would simplify that. My dream state as a working group chair is to say, all right, this document is ready for review, and to be able to push a button somewhere. Right now my button is my team contact, and he doesn't like it when I refer to him as a button. And so it would be very useful. It would alleviate some of that administrative burden, and make things much simpler if there were a way to streamline that. Similarly, updating recommendations doesn't have a lot of support in the tooling. Right now, if a working group wants to release an updated specification, they have to essentially hand edit the HTML in order to show the diff between exactly what was and exactly what is now. There's no simple way to do that. In fact, it's so complicated that my working group just starts over. We're like, we're going to do a 2.1, and we're starting from scratch, and we start at a working draft, and we have a first public working draft and bring it through candidate rec, and then bring it through the whole process again, because the process of just updating it to address some errata is miserable. So an area where tooling could help is if there were specific bike shed or respec support for editors of these documents. And by the way, if I'm saying things and you're like, yo, that's crazy, that's also feedback that would be very helpful to hear. And any aspect of the conversation that, I'm not expecting the conversation to happen now and then we're done. There's another breakout, there's a breakout tomorrow where we're gonna keep talking about this. Anyway, a couple other places where tooling could be helpful. Have you ever had to scribe a meeting? Yay. I've met one person who genuinely enjoyed scribing and was really good at it. Like this perfect blend. And so as chairs, we were like, okay, we cannot abuse this resource. We will only ask them to scribe if the scribe list, if we put them at the very end of the list and have to cycle through everybody, and then we're like, oh, perfect, we got our wonderful scribe today. Because they were always happy to do it and did a really good job, but you don't want to burn that person out. So the credentials community group, the verifiable credentials working group, the decentralized identifiers working group, these are the folks that I hang out with. They're kind of exploring the possibility of auto-scribing, and there's a couple of different tools and tool sets that are being refined there. But in order for it to be W3C tooling, it has to live somewhere where it's available for any working group to use. It's not just this side project that is residing on somebody else's infrastructure. There are some steps that could be taken there in order to share that. Similarly, formal objections. The opacity of a formal objection could be alleviated somewhat by the existence of some tooling. I want you to all notice that I have completely avoided using the word dashboard. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's the answer, even though that's sometimes the first thing that pops into mind. I think that it would make a lot of sense to make use of some of the built-in capabilities that GitHub has in order to track and handle some of these tooling adjustments. So this is it. This is tooling. What do you guys think? Is this something that is worth investing in? What should be the top priority? What should we as the AB try to, we did an exercise at one of our face-to-face meetings where we kind of did a product manager level, how would we kind of work this out? What would be the, coming up with user stories and stuff. We kind of started that process and then realized that the best place to continue this conversation is here with the advisory committee. And so this is your time. Come, tell me, answer these questions, please. Come to the mic.